Hey folks, Studio here. The date is July 13th, 2012. This is daily number 44, and we're going to be looking at someone called Soraka. Now, Soraka is weird. We're going to be looking at Orbit Gaming's Lemonation, their support player. We're going to look at his Soraka. And I like his Soraka. He's got a very unique style. But every support is a little weird. So I said Soraka's a little weird. This goes for everybody. It goes for Tarek. It goes for Nunu. Obviously, every character in the game has their own unique goal, their own unique items. Sometimes it can, overlap with someone else, but, there's a different reason for it. Why do you build a death cap really fast on brand, or a lot of, magic penetration on brand? It would be for his passive, or just to get some quick damage. Why would you build a lot of, maybe Abyssal Scepters or Hourglasses on someone like Morgana? It's because you want to go ahead and use your ultimate, be tanky enough to survive. So everyone kind of has their goal. There is a lot of overlap. But supports are kind of weird because they don't really have any non-overlap. In a way, almost every support is kind of the same. You can get different items, but it's not because of your support. It's certainly because of who you are. I'd say boots are the big difference. Soraka, for example, should always get CDR boots. Tarek will generally get mobility boots, though. So there's a lot of ways where supports are kind of the same, but at the same time, because you are so reliant on your base skills, and that is what makes a support good, because their base skills and their laning early on without any farm, without really any items, is always going to be at least really good to amazing. So Janna, for example, is so good because she has her ultimate, she has so much CC, she could have 0 income. She could be level, let's just say 9 for max out shield. And she'll be really effective even at level, or 40 minutes into a game, 50 minutes into a game, as long as she can survive to ult. Soraka, same thing. The armor buff is not going to go up if you buy more items. There is no AP ratio on her armor buff, which would be the best thing in the world. Actually, possibly balance around if they remove the armor buff. But this goes for all characters. Tarek will always have his stun. You can't really upgrade his stat bonus, and some supports do get better with farm. Janna gets a really good shield, Soraka gets pretty decent heals, or you can go for the tanky cooldown reduction build where you just get a lot of debuffs with Star Call. But in general, there is no well, clearly this is what you should buy, and this is, the same route for every support. Item-wise, that is there. But playstyle-wise, no, because there aren't that many support players, and they all have very different styles. So just to compare, for example, Nyetnwin, or it might be Yetnwin, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name very well. He, for example, is a carpet bomb warder. So he will buy a lot of wards. He will put them all across the map. That is his style. He wants to really help his team with the map control, with the map presence. And, this kind of applies to, all characters. Some people might say, well, maybe he should adjust to what his team wants. It's kind of like saying Reginald should be less aggressive. It's just weirder because it's a support. It's something different. He will buy a lot of wards. Someone like Locust, for example, I will see him on Tarek just being more aggressive, being less, I'd say, ward crazy, but more focused on making sure that bot lane is solid. At the same time, someone like Lemonation, he will get summoner spells and just pretty much sacrifice himself. Be like, yo, I'm going to make sure that Nintenso is doing super well at the end of the day. That is my goal. The way I play support, I'm really aggressive. I love to just go straight up earliest boost possible, not level 1. Usually I don't get them unless I'm like Tarek at the beginning of the game, but my goal is to be aggressive either in the bot lane or in the mid lane. Someone like Soraka, I will just toss out as many auto attacks as I can. It's very punishable, by the way, if they have a good bot lane. But still, I love aggressive supports. I love just being crazy, and my goal is to win the game. And that is what makes support cool. Your goal is to win the game. At the end of the day, you don't farm. You don't care about your gold income. You kind of care. You'll get GP5s, but that'll solve the problems you have. And at the end of the day, all you want to do is win. But let's go ahead. Let me start loading up this game. Am I loading up the right game? Yes. But what do you really want to do as a support? Let's use Soraka, for example. What's your main goal if you're with Nintenso? Well, you want to go ahead. You want to play really aggressively, help him do well early, and then kind of snowball that. So switching over to this. This was actually a IP LOL game between Troopers Troopers and Orbit Gaming. This was the second game, a best of 3. It did go to 3 games. And this first game had actually gone in favor of Troopers Troopers. They won the game, they played it really aggressively, and they really punished Orbit with it. They just went crazy with the aggression. And Orbit, they kind of took it and died. Like, it was actually a very impressive game. So the second game, they're going with a lane that they play a lot. It's a bit safer. Ezreal has Arcane Shift, so Soraka can keep Ezreal alive. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. What is the item build on Soraka? She has Fairy Charm, 4 words, a potion. Now we're going to go ahead, switch vision to orbits. We're going to see what I call the standard ward spot that many pro teams try and go for. Not all of them. Some of them don't put a ward down. Some of them don't put a ward there. But most teams want to put a ward here. Because with this spot, you can go ahead, you can see the enemy jungler doing wraiths. You can see just a lot of things going on. And when the jungler is at wraiths, like, you know something. So let's say they start blue, the jungler goes to wraiths. You now know how long it's going to be until he ganks another lane. If he doesn't show up at wraiths, you can assume he's either mid or bottom. And because of how efficient this route is for just getting towards red buff, that ward is super useful and super important. But, back to over here. So Orbit, they've realized that, you know what, they're not going to try and invade us, or they might try and invade us, we should be in our own jungle. They don't really want to go for a fight. They have an okay level 1, but so does Trooper's Trooper. Sivir's actually really good level 1, because Boomerang Blade actually does a lot of damage. So, this is called doing golems. If you don't know what this is, you as a 80 support bottom lane can kill golems. You will take some damage most likely, just because support's going to be pretty slow and golems move at 300 move speed. This is what you do. You just attack and move back and forth. Attack and move. So the 80 carry, if they start boots, should be able to attack, move, attack, move, attack, move. You might be able to attack once or twice, but you don't want to take too much damage. Elimination, with the items he started, he actually went 3 wards, Fairy Charm, and a potion. And this confused me for a bit. You'll notice Elimination's the only one in lane. He didn't go to help Lee Sin do red buff, and Nintenso didn't come to bot lane. Normally, it's always the carry rushing bot. They want to get Elimination as quickly as possible to level 2 and level 3. The reason level 2 is so she gets infused and Nian can just spam everything like crazy. And level 3 it's going to be because that's when Soraka, I'd say, really starts ramping up as a healer. At this point in the game, her heal's not very good. Only 70 HP, and it's pretty high cost in mana. So, I mean, right there, Elimination healed himself, didn't do a whole lot, and still has that really long cooldown. Now, really quickly, this is entirely a planning thing. I would not recommend doing this at all. Lee Sin really quickly went towards blue buff, and was actually able to pick it up. So, Lee Sin at blue buff, you know, that means that A, Nocturne probably took their blue buff, and B, because he was over there, that gave vision of where Nocturne was. So did this ward, but like the reason they don't have a ward down yet is because Lee Sin was in their jungle, and they also have this extra ward for defense. So it's like they knew they were safe. You can't always say that every game. If you don't have a ward there, if you don't have Lee Sin invading, then you might just want to put an extra ward down in this part of the river. And I'll explain that when he actually does it, because that's how he defends himself. But like, it's kind of weird to describe what a support should do. So Soraka, with her range, which I'll double check right now, is 550. Okay, he can actually auto attack Sivir, and if she has her auto attack on cooldown, for example, from having hit a creep, or from just like trying to CS, she can actually punish her. But that's all she can really do, and it is kind of risky. Against some lanes, like a Taric lane, you should never auto attack a Soraka if they have a good kill potential. Like, you just don't do it. Against this lane, well, what he really has to deal with is that harass coming up from Lulu, but he has a shield, so he's probably going to be using it defensively for the most part. If he does land any damage, they have no sustain. So that's a cool ward right here, especially for blue side. This ward can work pretty okay for purple side, but you don't get vision of Tribush. So the reason this ward is good is, if they want to come to gank, they generally have to come through river, and they get spotted. If you ward down here and get vision of this little route right now, like where the Tribush is at, you can go ahead and defend yourself from ganks that come around like this. But they do not expect Nocturne to come around there. That's actually a risk. That is a chance they take. Some teams take it, some teams don't. You do get a lot more map control and a lot better reaction time, though. And let's say Nocturne does come from blue to gank over here, they spot him. So, back to laning. What's happened, by the way, while I was explaining that, is Nintenso spam spells, Elimination gave him mana, and gave him health. Not a whole lot happens. Oh, by the way, I'll give you Runes and Masteries in the description. But, like, this is kind of what you do with Soraka. You kind of do any sort of poke you can. If they have a safe lane for it, which, I mean, I can't really put that in easy terms. If they can kill you, you'll probably know it. So someone like Taric, someone like Alistar, is not very safe to use auto attacks to poke against. You can always use Infuse for harass, but in this case, it's going to be a lot more worthwhile just to spam Infuse on Nintenso. Unless he has like full mana that's when you can go a little bit more aggressive. But beforehand, just spam infuse. Be aggressive, but make sure in the end that you're not losing too much HP. This is the part of the game where Soraka is considered kind of weak. So she does have a decent heal right now. It is 140 for a pretty inefficient mana cost, but it's not that high. So what can go wrong at these points in the game is, let's say Elimination's taken down to like 100 HP, Nintenso's taken down to like 300. It's going to take 2 or so heals to get Nintenso back to full health. Then you have to heal yourself. And that's going to be about a minute of healing, maybe 40 seconds, if you want to do better math. So this is a part of the game where Soraka, you really just don't want to be taking damage. So as you can see, he's taking a little bit of damage, but the second you take a big heavy burst of damage, you're going to be weak for a good 40 seconds, maybe a minute, maybe 20 seconds. So the aggression goes out. The heal, I believe, was on cooldown from Nintenso, or from Elimination, and what could he do for Nintenso right there? Nothing. So right now he healed Nintenso, he infuses him, just trying to do something, but he just goes back to base. And that's kind of the problem. Like right there, Nintenso was only at half HP. There was still 5 seconds of cooldown on the heal, so they retreat. They are doing a little better in CS, so it's not like leaving the lane would be too bad for them. And as that bottom lane is cleaned up, Sivir will catch up, but they're still going to be a little bit ahead. Now, that is a good reaction, but that is not a reaction you can do every time. In this case, Elimination, like they knew they were in a good spot to come back. Sivir, just because of Boomerang Blade, will most likely push quickly if she wants to, but they were so pushed back, and it's still early on in the game. They could get back to the lane in time to get all the CS. Look at him get it. Look at him. Nintenso. We're just gonna look. Actually, right now, let's watch see if Nintenso misses any CS. No, he's getting them. He's getting them. Oh, this guy's gonna be tricky. Be a tricky guy if he gets targeted. Oh no, he's gonna get. Good job, Nintenso. The sign of a good AD carry. But back to this game. If you have to go back, just do it. Just go ahead, go back to base. You want to not as much as possible. You want to stay back as far as possible. If you can actually go back and get a Philistone at a good time, for example, that's an okay time to go back to base. But in general, especially as someone like Soraka with your high sustain, all you want to do is farm, farm, farm. You want to be in the lane as long as possible, spamming spells like crazy. Soraka is going to be better in a 5-minute long drawn-out fight rather than a quick 10-second fight. Though she's pretty good in those too. So as Soraka, that's what you want to really focus on, just going for these long engagements. So the ultimate comes out. They're actually safe in the bot lane. There's communication, so they know this. And Elimination goes crazy with Harasskin. I love this. So he's now spamming Star Call. And what this does is it makes Mystic Shot an amazing spell. Unfortunately, they do push him back, and now he has to go ahead and play defensively. He does have a potion, though, and he does have his heal. And so like his main goal is just, try and protect Nintenso. He almost has the heal up. When you have Soraka heal, the best time to use it is one of 2 times. Like right now, when there's no action going on, so it's just good sustain. The other best time to use it is when he's being auto attacked. So Nintenso, unfortunately, he's taking damage right now. There is no heal for him, but they do pick up Mr. Fissures just because. Ezreal does a lot of damage. And like Elimination, what's he doing? He's trying to just, keep the pressure on, wait for that heal to come back up. Like, that is your goal as Soraka, to use heal when your AD carry is taking damage so that the armor buff will mitigate as much damage as possible. So we're like looking at Soraka's heal right now. It's a 65 armor bonus. She's only level 6, that will go up to 105. It's only for 3 seconds, it has been nerfed because thank God. But it is amazing. And that is going to be your main goal in team fights. Elimination, unfortunately, didn't really get a good setup for that, but he did get a sustain, and that was a really long, drawn-out fight. And why did Orba end up winning that? Well, Nintenso hit level 6. But also, just because Soraka is better at the long, drawn-out fights, that really just gave them an upper hand. It kept going and going. Lulu was doing okay pokes, Sid was doing okay poke. But in the end, well, Soraka, even without Ezreal, would have just made them come out ahead in that fight. So as that fight ended, Ezreal got the ult off. It had not happened, they still would have been pushed back. Ezreal could have kept getting sustained by Soraka, and he would have been in a good spot. Now, Elimination, look at his item build. He's got Philistone, he's got Heart of Gold, he has no wards. So he's not a carpet bomber with wards. He has this one out here, and because he knew there was some synergy, they have one up here. And I'm going to pause the game really quickly. So ward theory, what do you want your wards to do? Well, first of all, you have to look at the mini-map. That is something a lot of players have trouble with. I have trouble with it too every now and then. I'll just get caught up in CSing. I won't even notice that Nocturne's over here, for example. But what do you want to do with your wards? So to come from this part of the jungle, from purple side's jungle to gank bot lane, what are their choices? They can go through this exit towards over here, or through river. They can come through here towards river, or they can come through here towards river. So there really is never too good of an option. You can go ahead and put a ward here, for example, but then that leaves mid lane open. They put a ward here, it leaves mid lane covered. But the goal is you want to block off as many entrances as possible. So right here, Nick Wu, if he goes down towards through river to gank bot lane, he will be spotted. Or at a minimum, they'll know he's in this jungle somewhere. So this is a communication thing, but really don't look at the jungle as a place you need to spam wards. Look at all the openings and try to cover as many openings as you can with as few wards as possible. So this blocks off any aggression from over here because he will be spotted by that ward. He comes in through here, he's spotted. Like I said, it leaves this spot, but good creep pushing means that it will most likely be safe to go ahead and assume they won't come through that area. It may not be, it may be, but in the end, like, you're kind of taking a risk. You can even come in through here, for example, but once you have to be pushed up to way over here. Anyhow, back to bot lane. That is why he did not buy any wards, because they are actually safe right now, which is not very common to be safe with so few wards, but just because of how they know the lane is set up, they should be safe. Of course, it is Nocturne, he can gank from over here, that lane ganks are still a possibility. You can actually get wards to defend against that, it's just really hard. But what is Elimination going to be doing? He has Infuse, he has his ultimate up in, well, Infuse is almost up, his ultimate is up in 40 seconds. He's just going to go ahead, do nothing really. They spot the enemy team doing Dragon. What can he actually do here? Nothing. He can infuse. He can, infuse Ezreal after that ultimate was used. That's about it. And they actually see Nocturne go towards bot lane. And Orbit, they retreat the tower. They try and play safely. Their focus is now, let's stay alive. Unfortunately, Captain America also comes bot lane, and this fight goes on. So Nintendo tries to get away, and Elimination just kind of have to hang out underneath his turret. And so does die under the turret. And what's Elimination doing? He's trying to heal himself. Like, now he's taking damage. And he has 123 armor. He takes very little damage in the end. And he actually gets a kill on Nick Wu. So, I'm just going to rewind. I'm not going to rewind to show this off again. But this is the most important thing you can do with Soraka. Like, this is the best time to use a heal. So just watch Elimination. A, he wants to take enough damage so that you heal all the damage. So 280, the heal had full effect. He's taking a lot of damage right now. Nocturne was auto-attacking him. Auto-attacks came out from Mr. Fissures and Trooper. But he survived. And Ignite was also not quite on him yet. So your goal as Soraka is to use Astral Blessing when A, there is no healing debuff on you. B, you have enough damage where you actually get the full heal. And C, and you're taking damage, so you mitigate as much as possible. And there he just kind of dies. Like, he uses his heal, he uses his other heal, and unfortunately they just do not pick up the kill. But, they get cleanup. Like, so he does die, but they get a lot of cleanup. This is really good. Who cares if you die as Soraka when your team gets multiple kills? I do love that high stick around for that. So, go ahead, fast forward to Elimination respawns. And that is what will happen as a support, by the way. Assume you will die. Like, don't try to die. Don't be like, man, I'm going to go ahead, flash infuse, pick up a kill. I will die, though. Don't try to do that, because you getting gold is really not a good thing. Like, it's not a bad thing, but you trading, you getting the gold in the best of the situation is a bad thing, just because, supports, they don't do a lot with gold in the way League of Legends is played. You might pick up more GP5s, you might get an early Reverie, that's nice, but that's not an Infinity Edge on your AD carry, for example. So, as a support, just value your life less. This actually is a cool thing. It lets you play really aggressively, because if you're like, well, I can go ahead and set up a trade, my AD carry survives and keep farming afterwards and their AD carry dies, that's super cool. I just want to make sure I try not to get the kill. Sometimes it doesn't always work, though. But back to bot lane, what is Elimination doing? He's just going to be spamming Infuse onto Yan. And I know, that's not that exciting, but that is kind of what support does. You spam Infuse, and while that may not seem exciting to play, it actually kind of is, because what is Elimination doing? He's got his finger over Astral Blessing. He's constantly watching the minimap. He's going to be the guy who's pinging that Nocturne is here, for example. He's going to be the guy who will, like, not necessarily call the shots, but give out a lot of information just with pings, just with, noticing where things are. Also, as Soraka, something very specific, when this is off cooldown, you look over here a lot. You got to go ahead, constantly be watching your lanes. Like, if I was Soraka right now, I'd be looking up top than up bot really quickly. So, Intenso's taking damage. The Astral Blessing goes down. Will he survive? Maybe. The ultimate comes down. There was no ignite onto him. And yeah, they turn around. And Captain America actually dies top lane to a gank as it all goes down. So like that is your goal as Soraka. What you can also do, and she actually didn't get it off, you can also use Infuse offensively. Now, obviously there's a bit of damage, but the silence is the big deal. And this is going to be incredibly key with characters like Amumu, actually. So if there's a very obvious combo that the enemy character wants to do, Amumu wants to bandage toss into his ultimate, you can go ahead, use Infuse offensively, it will stop his combo. Don't forget, Infuse also stops flashes. So like, let's say it's a level 1 fight, don't put a point into anything until you see whether you need to heal defensively or Infuse offensively to go ahead and stop damage or stop a flash. But Elimination, he's just going to go ahead, be aggressive, be a huge jerk, because he kind of can now. This is Soraka's like cool part. They don't have enough damage to really burst them down safely. Like, this is not a Leona lane. This is a lane with Sivir and Lulu. That's a lot of poke. And a lot of poke, when it deals with Soraka, it's not going to go well, just because now she has a really good heal. The heal is relatively efficient, and he can spam it, you know, about 2.5 times, about 3 times by the time the MP5 kicks in. Now, really important, look at Soraka's mana. 526 mana. She has 900 total. That's pretty good. Something important to remember, though, is Astral Blessing at max rank is 200 mana. That's a really high mana cost, and her MP5 is only 24. So it's going to take about 50 seconds to get a new Astral Blessing. But this also kind of syncs up well because Astral Blessing still has a 20-second cooldown. So as Soraka, you actually can go ahead and plan out your mana fairly well. If you're like, well, I'm at 400 mana, I should have, you know, a good 3 Astral Blessings, maybe actually 6, not 6, 4, if I spam it off cooldown, so just kind of remember that. That is actually something you can go ahead and just tell your carry about. Obviously in solo queue it's a bit hard to give out that information. Like, I will sometimes just be like, I got 1 to 2, or like, I got 2 Astral Blessings left, just so they know. But it's not hard, it's not easy to do on a consistent basis. But Elimination, okay, what has he done? And how do you do it yourself? He spams Infuse on his carry as much as possible. When his carry has good mana, he'll go ahead and use it himself. He uses Astral Blessing when when someone's taking damage. And obviously you want the full heal off, hopefully Ignite's not on them. And you also go ahead and do it as they take damage so they mitigate a lot more physical damage. Now this fight's going to be kind of interesting, because I like how Elimination plays it, but he does have an Oracle, so you can ask yourself whether you think this was worth it. So the fight goes down, Elimination just walks into the enemy team. He wants to be focused. He actually walks into Rumble's ultimate for a second there. He's just spamming Star Call. I believe he gets 3 casts before he dies. So just looking at Rumble, he has 20 magic resist, so he does die. But in the end, look at just the damage the enemy team took. 44 magic resist, so only 2 Star Calls hit Rumble in the end. And of course, he uses heal, he uses ultimate, he uses spells. He does die. But look, his summers are on cooldown, he gets the exhaust off. It's actually something risky about playing 2 defensively. You may not be in range for exhaust. And the question I have is, was that worth it? Because he had an Oracles. Well, they secured Dragon. He got, I believe, 4 assists in the end. Yeah, he's 227. So he got a decent chunk of gold. He got gold from Dragon. He's fine. He can buy another Oracles if he wants. I actually do not know if he does. Let's see if he's alive. Okay. He's actually, I'd say, questioning it. Looking at his gold. Yeah, he's at 919. So he can go ahead, he can go for boots. He can buy more rewards. And he can pick up another Oracles if he wants to. You don't really need to. And the entire point of Oracles at this point in the game is going to be A, to secure wards for ganks, which, I mean, they're going well enough. You don't necessarily need ganks, especially with Shen Ultimate, and B, to clear Dragon. So they did both. They cleared Dragon, they got Dragon, and they're getting ganks off like crazy anyways. So Elimination, he doesn't need the Oracles. He purchased it once. You don't want to put too much into Oracles. You don't want to, like, kind of waste gold. You can get a Reverie, for example. Reverie's really good. And Oracles, it's risky. Especially someone like Soraka without Flash, who is very killable. They can all kill Soraka, is actually the best way to put it. So even if it's a team fight, even if it ends up being a 5-for-1, Soraka can be focused down pretty much no matter what. But Elimination, so his item build, He's not going for an Aegis, and this is actually something I found really interesting. He did buy CDR boots, by the way, Soraka. CDR boots, I'd say, are her best boots, even if you get a lot of CDR out of it, just because Astral Blessing has a long-ass cooldown. Now it's down to 15 seconds. You can cast it 4 times in a minute instead of 3, which is a pretty big deal. But he's going for an Aegis, and this is actually something I find kind of interesting. Aegis is one of the most efficient items in the game. I can't show the stats right now just because there isn't one in this game. But it's really efficient. It's got really good mitigation for your team. Like, it's just, in terms of cost per gold, it is amazing when you group up for team fights, which they've been doing and they've been winning, so they want to keep doing so. But I don't like it on a support because you get it very late on a support. As you can see, he already has 2 GP5s. He's going for the Aegis right now. You can do this on a lot of junglers, actually. A lot of junglers actually do that. Might buy one item in advance, but they'll have more gold just because they kill creeps, while Soraka really doesn't, only at 12 CS. And the question is, do you really want an Aegis? Like, do you want to buy an Aegis on someone like Soraka and delay it for the rest of the team? And that really depends on your jungler, that really depends on your top laner too. So Shen, he could go for Aegis, but they won't be aggressive with him. He's doing well. He's going to be split pushing a lot, possibly won't be wanting a lot, so the Aegis will not be super useful. Lee Sin, he wants to just build super tanky. He has to build extra defensive. Lee Sin, this is what you do. You build super extra defensive. You cannot survive mid-game if you don't have lots of defensive items unless you're super far ahead. And I like this decision to get on Soraka. Normally I don't. I'm like, well, maybe Alistar should get something else, like a Reverie first. But just because of how this all works out, the Aegis is a good buy. Now, if you're playing support, and no one on your team is getting an Aegis, buy an Aegis. Just do it. It's so efficient. The numbers on it are amazing. But anyhow, Soraka item build aside, what is Elimination doing right now? Not a lot. He hit level 11. That's a big deal. Level 11, he has level 2 ultimate. So it's got a really shorter cooldown, more health. It's better, as it should be. But he's not going for more experience. And this is just kind of the thing about support. You don't need that many levels. Janna, I'd say you could stop her at level 9 and she'd still be pretty good. Soraka at level 11, I'd say is, probably the most effective she'll be. Like, you can get 16 with her. She will be better, of course. But most games, I'd say you don't see her get 16. You really see her at the level 11 in terms of strength. And the reason she doesn't get that much stronger is what are you going to max out next? Infuse and Star Call. Those are both good skills, but generally Soraka has a lot of trouble actually getting enough Star Calls off. And Infuse, while it actually does get quite stronger, it's not the biggest deal. It's not a bunch of extra armor. It's going to be a nice longer silence, but it's not going to be you take half damage from physical attacks if you have no armor. If you have... Okay, I want to put Soraka's armor in perspective. If you have 100 armor and Soraka uses her W on you, 100 armor is not crazy. You go from taking half damage to 1/4. I want to say half to 1/3. It might be 1/4. 1/4, that's it. So that is amazing mitigation. That's really good. You go from 50 damage to 25 damage. Like, quick little math thing. Imagine if you have 500 HP, it goes from taking you 10 shots to taking you 20 shots to actually die. So that's a big deal. The armor buff is just amazing. Star Call, it's a little bit more magic resistance being lopped off, a little bit more damage, not a big deal. Infuse, longer silence, but only by about half a second post level 11, so it's not a huge deal. Now, they're doing Baron. They know they can do this. They just caught him blindside. This is a pretty early Baron, 22-minute mark. Usually you want to be safe about it. They have Lee Sin with the Oracles. They saw there weren't any wards in the Baron pit, so they knew that they wouldn't be spotted. Right now, Troopers, they're actually a really new team. So they do have to get a little bit more work on stuff like, map control. And the Baron pops, Elimination just, uses ultimate to go ahead and save Intenso. Izuki uses his ultimate. Everybody stays alive. Everybody's doing good. So they're just kind of ahead right now. And Soraka, when you're ahead, honestly, sometimes you just don't do that much. Sometimes, all you do is kind of run around and wait for something to happen. Some supports do this. Like Nunu, you can try and do stuff, like maybe ult in the bush, but you don't have that many options. Taric, you can start fights with your stun. Alistar, you can start fights with your stun. Sona, you can start fights with your stun. Soraka, you can help counter ganks. You can help someone spam spells to push lane, maybe start a fight like that, but you're not going to be the person who starts stuff. And a lot of people actually do have trouble with this. I can see it. I can feel it. Even every now and then, there are games where I'm playing Soraka, I'm like, oh my god, I wish I was Blitzcrank so I could pull someone who can beat up their ass, because frankly, like, the team's not doing what we need to do. That's actually, I'd say, a big reason Soraka is not super fun to play on solo queue, but is really good on a 5s team, just because you're all organized. You may not start stuff, but you will have a good feel for when stuff should be going down. And it's a community effort rather than just one guy being like, gonna ult that dude, and for better or worse, the fight starts. But Lemonation on Soraka. So, what is his goal now? He has an Aegis. He's gonna go for Reverie. And this is something that I kind of agree with, that he didn't buy the Reverie early. I do recommend always getting a Reverie on Soraka. A, it solves for mobility issues because you pop Reverie in your mobile. B, Reverie is one of the best items in the game. It lets you start fights. You can actually start a fight by popping your Reverie. You can chase a team down. It lets you escape fights. It's just really, really good. Buy your Reverie, bind it to 2, bind it to whatever button you will remember to press. Actually, quick little note. For item bindings, I really don't get that many items that are active for the most part, so I just use 1 to 3 as my use buttons. 2 is always set to SmartCast. And then I have another button specifically not set to SmartCast, just so I can use wards without SmartCasting. Wards, you don't want to SmartCast because that can go really, really wrong. Like, super wrong, so you can mess up so many ward placements. Actually, on that note, if you want good ward placements, I want you to go ahead and watch videos by Zekin. He's been showing off a lot of cool ward spots. Go ahead, check it out. I'll put that in the description too. But back to this game. So like I said, Soraka, you don't do much, but you're there. You're useful. You're kind of like the radio man in a war movie. Like, you will die. Aside from that, all you really do is talk a lot and just kind of watch things and maybe report things. So as Soraka, you're just gonna be watching your HP bars on your team. You're gonna be watching the mini map. If you're in a 5s, you don't have to do that as much because you will hear it. But still, like, your goal is going to be, should I use my ultimate now to save someone? Should I use my should I wander from my lane just to heal someone? Do I think we're going to be ganked? Should I save my heal for that gank? And there's like lots of little details, lots of little things that you will build up eventually, and you will get your own Soraka style. Actually, every support, when played by a different person, they just have different styles. People play them differently. I've seen some really aggressive Sorakas. This is a pretty aggressive Soraka. I've seen some very passive Sorakas. They don't auto-attack, they don't infuse aggressively, they just kind of, sit back and heal. Look at Lemonation, he's leading the charge, man. He is chasing down Captain America. And that's just how he plays. Like, I'm going to chase him, if we do get a gank, I will silence him, he will not flash. That is how it will work. If you want to try and start stuff with Soraka, you can get royalized to catch people with infuse. But like I said, you really don't have options. Randuins will be okay later on to help protect your carry. Now, troopers, they really can't do much, and this is because A, we have Orbit really far ahead, and B, they have good protection. Now, protection for a carry is something weird to talk about, because different teams require different protection. So Nocturne will get to his target. Rumble will get his ultimate on Nintenso. Trooper, Mr. Fissures, and Judy Monica, those are the people who aren't guaranteed to do damage to Tien. But Nick Wu, how do you stop a Nocturne? There are 2 options. You can be like Janna or Shen, where you can CC him and knock him back. If he lands a good spell shield, though, he can screw you over. If you are Soraka, you heal him and give the armor buff, or Janna, you shield him. So because of the composition, they can't really dive Nintenso. So obviously, if Rumble uses his ultimate from far away, he'll just get healed through it. And if he does close the distance, there's a good chance Lamination can put down a good silence and stop him from engaging. Nintenso has his Arcane Shift to, of course, leave the ultimate, leave Flame Spitter range, and the same applies to Nick Wu on Nocturne. The Arcane Shift generally won't leave the range of his Fear. However, Soraka with her heal can mean that once Nocturne has feared Ezreal and he's taking damage, he isn't taking any damage, actually. He's taking, like, nothing. That's kind of how Soraka works. That's good protection. Shen also helps in because he can dash and taunt, he can get Rune Prison. Like, they have really good protection for Nintenso. I really like this composition. But protection is a concept that won't apply. Like, what if they have Morgana, for example, and let's say Malphite? That's a lot of magic damage, it's very little physical damage. If Nintenso gets hit by a binding, you're not doing anything. So this is a very awesome fight. Lemonation really, like, he just waiting to use the heal for people who are taking damage. People who are taking the turret, he heals high actually because High was taking the turret for a little bit, and then the fight just kind of breaks off. And that's all like you do as Soraka. You just kind of sit back. You're about using your one the 2 buttons at the right time, and then like the other buttons you want to do at good times. So that heal, he didn't use it early on. He used it the second they were diving that second turret, because if he used it early on, he didn't know he was going to take damage later. Like, he might have gotten to heal on Yuzuki, who did take a lot of damage at the beginning of the fight, or Nabi Pooh Bear, because he had a Shenelt on him. But at the end, who actually needed it was Hai, and Hai really didn't take that damage until he reached that second turret. And that's kind of what you do with Soraka. You're just like, alright, who's actually taking the damage? Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes they just dive the AD carry, and you're like, AD carry, you must live. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's an engagement like that where they're being chased off and you can heal to help turret dive, but that's not what you need to do. Also, I'm so sorry, Mr. Figures. I'm so sorry. But that's actually more or less the end of the game. They do get chased away from Baron. Unfortunately, Troopers can't actually do it. They just get picked off right there. There's not a lot to say. They walk into the wrong bush. And then with them all dead, Troopers to Baron, and they surrender really soon afterwards. But Soraka, like, the best way I can describe what you do with her is you play her, you figure out how you play her, and you have to adapt. You have to constantly learn new matchups. If they have Taric, if they have Leona, you cannot play aggressively, or if you do, you have to do it really safely when their CC is down. If you're up against someone like Lulu, for example, someone like Janna, spam Infuse. Infuse is instant. There is no travel time for it. You can catch people off guard. It's cool. What you do in team fights, Astral Blessing, you want to use it preferably. These are all preferables for the most part. A, on someone who's not ignited. If they're ignited, then, well, the armor buff is still really good. B, someone who's actively taking damage. Like Janna's shield, there is that extra little kick that makes Soraka's abilities better on someone who's taking damage. That's going to be the armor bonus. C, you want to use it when they've taken enough damage to get the full heal. Like, that one might seem obvious, but I've seen it happen quite often, especially early game. It's like if someone takes 1 harass, Astral Blessing. It's like, no, you need to get the full heal off on someone. It's odd how common it is, but like I said, don't overheal. Don't go past topping. This isn't WoW. You don't have a 1-second cooldown Astral Blessing and you're limited by mana. No, you have 20-second cooldown, man. That's a long time. And I want to say, a lot of supports are like Soraka, where they have really long cooldowns and their buttons are super important, but that is how they're balanced. Like, they have good buttons, but they don't get that much better just because of cooldown, because of ratios. Taric, for example, his stun, 14-second cooldown at level 1. Remember that when you play support, by the way, because you can abuse that fact. But that's a long cooldown for a spell. That's a really long cooldown, but it's really good. That's a guaranteed stun. Only other character who has that is, I want to say Scion, and of course Ultimates and stuff like that. Maybe Twisted Fate, but like, there are very few guaranteed stuns like that for the early part of the game where it's just not a skill shot. And you know, Taric has a heal and a support spell, so it works really well. So like, there is a tendency with supports to just be like that. Look at Janna, her spells all 10-second or more cooldown at level 1. Blitzcrank, the only spell that's below that is going to be Power Fist, which still has an 8-second cooldown. That's a long cooldown on a spell that you have to be in melee range to use. So that is kind of how support works. You have these long cooldowns. You have to learn how to use them yourself. And you can really go crazy. Lemonation, I like how he played. He played super aggressively. You can do that too. I had a Soraka once who would just constantly spam her left, walk back and forth in the bush. Actually, every now and then she spammed do you always fight so poorly? Which I hated so much. But I mean, like, she stayed aggressive. She was super offensive. And with the lane we had, we couldn't do that much. Just like, play support, find your option. And like, learn the strengths. Like, when do you use Shatter? Almost always, because frankly, the armor bonus for Taric isn't super important. When do you use Janna's shield? A, when they're taking damage. B, when you want them to deal damage and be aggressive. Like, you can start aggression by doing that. You can deal with aggression by shielding at the right time. When to use New Blood Boil? Always. Just keep it up on someone. When do you use his Frostbolt? When you expect some follow-up from your AD carry. So just learn it, get used to it. Now, dealing with a bad AD carry, that's something that I'll probably cover, I'd say, in the next week or so. But you just gotta deal with it, man. Sometimes AD carries are just crappy. Sometimes they're just a player who isn't very good, and you gotta roll with it. I'm sorry. As for brief announcement, I will be moving, which is why I've actually been so inactive this week. But that's because I'm moving to a place with FiOS, so I can actually stream and do stuff like that. But yeah, I'll see you guys, I believe tomorrow. I'll do one last video. Also, If the FPS on this was kind of choppy, tell me, because I'm running on less RAM because one of my RAM sticks, this little Corsair guy, has not been working very well. What has been leading to lots of blue screens, which is really not fun. I'd say it's anti-fun. But yeah, the studio is saying adios. Check out my hand.